It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We're broadcasting live from our studios in frigid downtown Nashville. We are delighted to welcome to our microphones all-star panelist, our newest all-star panelist, and official guest host of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, EJ Host. Good morning, EJ.
Good morning. So can I tell you what happens in Nashville when it gets a little bit chilly?
Oh, now, let me say this. You were born in Massachusetts.
Yes, sir.
You lived many years in Minnesota.
Over a decade.
When it gets, and I was born in upstate New York. I went to college in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
When it gets cold in Nashville, Tennessee, behavior is different. And our producer, who was born in Massachusetts, and
Yes, Patrick knows too.
grew up in behavior is different in a cold Nashville, Tennessee than it is in Minnesota or Massachusetts or upstate New York.
100%. It was, okay, all weekend long, we didn't get any mail. There was some snow on the ground, y'all, and it turned to ice. And so no school, no mail, no Amazon deliveries. The grocery store was completely empty. Well, most of this is now melted, but it's still frigidly cold outside. So there's a few patches of ice and things.
When I got up at the Leahy Manse in the Spring Hill Thompson Station area, which for those of you outside Nashville is about 25 miles south.
Sure.
Of Nashville. It was a frigid 19 degrees. Now, John Fredericks this morning, I think got up in Pittsburgh where it was a frigid 13 degrees. Now, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in January, 13 degrees is like a sauna.
Right.
Right?
You know, I used to say when I lived in Minnesota, Stan, I used to say that 14 degrees feels a lot like 7 degrees, feels a lot like 0 degrees, feels a lot like -7 degrees. Like once it's cold, it's cold, but here in Tennessee, people do freak out. And so the roads were packed with people today because it's the first emergence of most work and school again. And so people were a little nutty on the roads this morning.
When I was a kid, when I was a kid, yes, this is a true story. So I grew up in all these little towns in upstate New York, one of which is called Dannemora. That's the prison town. It's just about 20 miles south of the Canadian border, 60 miles south of Montreal. And it's in, as our school alma mater said, it's in the rugged Adirondacks.
Okay.
Literally, as I tell the story, the distance keeps growing. Right.
The older you get, the further it was?
Yeah. 5 miles.
Sure.
I walked in 33-degree below zero temperature with snowbanks 6 feet high. I went back a couple of years ago, and it's a little over a quarter mile.
Right. Of course it is.
So that, of course, when you're 10 years old, it seems like a little.
Hey, listen, I have a son who at 10 years old was playing hockey in Minnesota. If it was 13 degrees outside, he had shorts on.
Yeah. Well, yes. And that's a tough hockey kid. So, but it was true that the snowbanks were 6 feet high.
Yep.
And it was 33 degrees below zero. When you're out, when it's that cold, 33 degrees below, you really don't want to have a lot of skin exposed.
No. Do you know in some parts of the U.S., people don't realize how cold it gets, out west, and your eyeballs can freeze. That's a true story. That can actually happen.
I don't want to hear any more about that. Now,
not going to happen here in Tennessee. It's not going to happen in any of the listening audience areas, I promise.
Other places that are really cold, Toronto in January.
Yeah,
very cold. North Dakota, Fargo, Bismarck,
Grand Forks, very cold.
Very cold. And right now, 19. I think it's moving. It's going to be moving up, but it's going to be a cold week. Another place where it's going to be cold is Washington, D.C. Although the hearings
The
up there for Pete.
warm glow of inauguration, though, I think will
Are you
be
going?
enough. I am not
You're
going.
not going?
No. You?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I'm a sane person. Now, look, if you want to have some fun and you have a lot of discretionary income.
Yeah, very expensive. I think the only way I'd go is if I were invited to a ball. And I keep checking the mailbox, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
They're going to have all sorts. It's going to be a lot of fun if everything goes
Yeah.
well. And we were talking a little bit about some security precautions. I am more than a little bit concerned about, what possibly could happen, what the bad guys might try and do.
Agreed.
And, but on the other hand, it is what, 6 days? No.
5 days.
It is 5 days. Let's be accurate. 5 days, 5 days, 23 hours, 49 minutes and 30 seconds. But who's counting? Until Donald Trump is inaugurated.
If there's any indication, if they're kind of previewing what we can expect for the inauguration, Code Pink is currently at the Pete Hegseth confirmation hearing with the armed services.
You were watching that?
I was not watching it, but I was getting tidbits of news on my way in this morning on my very frigid and
Let me just say,
traffic-filled.
we played in the last segment. Pete Hegseth he's killing it.
He's doing great.
He's doing great, and I think all of the attacks are so very 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, we're kind of over that.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's like you're not going to be able to Kavanaugh Hegseth.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He's loaded for bear. I mean, he is really bringing it.
Yeah.
His introductory comment was very strong. Now, Code Pink, their complaint against Pete Hegseth is, I would guess,
He's a man.
yes, he's a man, and he has said, and I think he may have walked it back a little bit, but he said women should not be in combat. Now, let me just, as a guy who's never served in the military, right? I would say that's probably a good policy.
Listen, are some women capable? Probably.
But what percentage of women in the
But-
service would you say would be capable
Right.
of
Yeah.
combat?
Who
5%?
Oh no, I don't.
1%? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
So you don't want to add, and look, there are plenty of non-combat roles for intelligent, patriotic women to serve in.
Well, right. And let's face it, like war has changed. National defense
true.
has changed. I think there's certainly a more than one place where women will do very well and in some cases better than men. That's totally fine. In combat roles, though, I don't think that's a disqualifying opinion for him to have through these confirmation hearings. And I don't think it's going to stick for very long either. Code Pink, who even knew they were still a thing?
Now, what is the thing that they care about? Are they basically for abortion rights, aren't they? What's the theme of Code Pink?
I think they like to wear really funny hats.
The pink hats, I know.
Yep, they got the hats.
We've seen the pink hats for the pro-abortion rallies.
This is the problem, though. If we don't even know what they stand for,
They-
how effective can they really
They
be?
stand for pink stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Okay.
They don't want to tell you the difference between a man and a woman, but at the same time, they wear all pink and wear female genitalia on their heads. So
Yeah, that's
not
not-
to be taken seriously.
The military and that kind of look doesn't fit very well, does it?
Yeah.
So, well, we will be throughout the hour as more Pete Hegseth gems come out and more failed attempts at going after him come out. We'll kind of play them throughout. And but big news here in Tennessee, of course, is the organizational meeting of the Tennessee General Assembly.
Yes.
Going on today.
Starts today.
And we'll explain a little bit about how that works in a bit. We're talking with E.J. Host, guest host of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show and newest All-Star panelist. Back after this.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. EJ Haas in studio. EJ,
Yes, sir.
have you been following the debacle in Los Angeles?
Who hasn't?
I know, who hasn't? I've watched a fellow who's interviewed me comment on it. He lives in California. His name is Michael Schellenberger.
Mm-hmm.
You know Michael
Yep.
Schellenberger. He's the guy who got the Twitter files from Elon Musk.
Yes.
And along with Matt Taibbi. And a very intelligent fellow. He had a couple of things to talk about. And these are like kind of some bigger picture things to talk about, but I think are on point. Let me play the clip here. And let's start off with the first comment about religion. Here we go. Clip 11.
Nietzsche really nailed it, which is that when people stop believing in traditional religions, they unconsciously, develop, they develop a new sense of guilt, a new vision of the apocalypse. They invent a new soul. I mean, people think that there's this thing called gender, which is separate from your body. It's kind of like a soul. My friend Abigail Schreier pointed that out. And so we just end up recreating Christianity, but in a deformed and deranged way. And and the emergent quality of it is this destructive fire. Like, it's actually more powerful because nobody got out there and said, somebody did say, let's let Malibu burn, but that was never like the explicit policy of the government of LA. It's just something that emerges after years of budget cuts, after years of self-hating ideologies like DEI, like climate apocalypse, like the homeless apocalypse. It's just emerges kind of deep within us, from some self-destructive part of us. So for me, if there's a foreign invasion, it came through the human psyche, not from outside of it.
Your reaction to that was Schellenberger being interviewed by Tucker Carlson. And I think that interview, Tucker lives in Florida in the winter.
Maine.
And Maine in the summer. I don't know if he's up in Maine now. It's pretty cold up there.
Yeah.
But he's got the same kind of studio look. Anyways, what's your reaction to Michael Schellenberger talking about it in that way?
So I saw this episode.
Oh, you did see it?
Yep. And when he first started talking, that particular clip, I thought he was talking about like the religion of climate change activism. That's kind of where it goes, but it is much bigger. It's much deeper than that. There is a government religion, if you will, and there are people who legitimately look to government as some sort of savior. That is a problem. When you are so unhappy with yourself that you're looking to others to make you whole, and really a problem when it's not actual God, but rather other humans who play God, that's a problem.
Interesting you say that, because if you look at the behavior of California Governor Gavin Newsom, the behavior of LA Mayor Karen Bass, and if you put it in the context of a theological context of priests and bishops, for instance, or higher ups, priests and other holy people, they are presenting themselves as the holy people of this leftist state bureaucracy, and they are disconnected in very serious ways from the practical, common sense things that used to have been done by state and local government.
Right. That's right. It's beyond just, oh, well, we should be filling up the reservoir, or we should have, cleared the brush, right? Those kinds of things.
Stop. Now, talk about common sense. Los Angeles, for millennia, that whatever was the area that was Los Angeles before it was populated, had the Santa Ana winds. When the Spanish came there in 1700s, they had the Santa Ana winds. They've had those forever. It's a known thing. Right?
It's like hurricanes in Florida. It's like snowstorms in Minnesota. They come every year.
So anyone with an ounce of common sense would have said, oh, this is something that's going to happen all the time. What should we do? Oh, let's fill up the reservoirs. Let's make sure we have water in case there's a fire.
That's right.
And, all that underbrush up the hills, which is, ready to burst into flames at a minute's notice, let's clear that all. Those are two common sense things.
Right. And if you pay attention to the alerts that are coming in, you kind of know when these fires are going to happen with better certainty, quite honestly, than snowstorms in Tennessee, right? Like the weathermen in Tennessee, probably Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Virginia, not quite as accurate as these Santa Ana winds. We know when they're coming, and they are very predictable. And so it's odd to me that it has taken this kind of event for people to open up and be like, oh, maybe my government isn't doing the things it should, and this religion isn't what I thought it was.
Schellenberger was talking about the Marxist DEI connection. Let's play clip 14.
The most articulate advocate of that view is a Marxist named Mike Davis, who wrote this book called City of Quartz. It's a crazy nihilistic book, but he had an essay and also this chapter in that book called Let Malibu Burn. I mean, it's classic kind of radical left politics. It's classic sort of envy or sour grapes. I mean, sour grapes goes, I can't remember the parable, but basically it's like some animal wants to eat these grapes, but they're up too high. And then he says, oh, well, those grapes were sour anyway. It's a consolation for your own personal weakness and failure. That's just, let Malibu burn. I mean, you have an ideology of Marxism that is based on resentment and envy. And so then you go, well, yeah, all those rich houses should go up in flames. It's a fantasy. I mean, it's a left-wing I should know. I was on the radical left. Like the fantasy, you hate the rich people because you want their wealth and you admire them in some level, but you can't get it. So, I mean, this is how envy works. So you end up constructing this whole political ideology. I mean, this is what Marx has done. And it's infected like the citizenry. I mean, it's infected the politicians. And so there's this, I think that even though it's not consciously, the politicians aren't consciously saying, oh, let's let Malibu burn. That is the behaviors they have taken have had that impact. So
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this whole equality thing is really something. If you follow libs on, not libs of TikTok, although that's a very good account, but I just mean liberals and radical lefties on TikTok and X and other social media platforms, equality has become this big thing now for them as it relates to the wildfires. And to that, I would say, to what end? Like, your version of equality means everyone burns. Really, if you really truly think about it, what's the end goal? What does equality mean to these people? And it's not only rich, really super wealthy actors and actresses that are living in those homes. It's not. There's a 91-year-old man who's been living there since the 60s, and he moved in before all the homes around him were purchased, torn down, and mansions put up. That guy shouldn't lose his house either.
Schellenberger has this other little tidbit that I want to throw out on clip 16. Play this, and I'm going to get your reaction to it.
is homeless people starting
Yep.
fires all over LA. Half of all fires put out by the LA Fire Department are started by homeless people. It's been that way for years.
Why do homeless people start fires?
Well, it turns out meth heads love to start fires.
Now hold on, I didn't.
No, that's a true thing.
Is that a true thing?
Yeah,
Meth heads love to start. Why?
So it's a psychological something or other that goes on in their brains. Apparently, I've read a couple of reports on this now, where they like to watch fire. They like to watch things burn, and there's been studies trying to figure out why that is a side effect of meth.
We don't know specifically if any of these current LA fires were started by homeless people. Asterisk. I saw one report that it was embers from a New Year's Eve fireworks.
Yep, I saw that too. And we also saw a man who was arrested. He was detained actually by neighbors, just residents of the area. He had a blowtorch and was trying to, set fires.
An illegal alien homeless guy.
Yeah, exactly. No connection necessarily to meth that we know of at this point, but it's interesting that the homeless crisis is causing even more problems on top of what we already have.
What struck me about that is the LA Police Department refused to charge him with arson because they claimed he had no probable cause, other than the fact, I don't know.
It's on video.
Probable cause, you're walking in an area with a fire with a blowtorch and people see you trying to start a fire. That would be probable cause to me.
And it's on video. So
when we come back, we'll have more with EJ Host. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
My fellow Americans, I was this close, very close, to buying from the lumber yards. These are sick people. But I turned my head at the last second, and I saw a big, beautiful ad for D.T. McCall's. These are highly respected people. If I had not turned my head at the last second, I would have been ripped off at some lumber yard for $200 in hidden charges, and D.T. McCall & Sons are never going to do that. They'd never do that to you. These are great people. I've known them for a long time. They have great deals, and I just have to say, nobody knows deals like I do. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. These are tremendous people. D.T. McCall & Sons. Check out one of their stores today. Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. We're going to catch up in our next segment with Liberals Gone Wild. Liberal
to put
senators
it lightly.
Gone wild.
Yeah.
Senator Gillibrand from New York, who's basically
it's a hoot.
Crazy.
You got to hear the clip.
You got the clip. We'll hear
yeah.
that. And I think every time one of these Democrats opens their mouth against Pete Hegseth, the likelihood he gets confirmed goes up.
Agreed. They're making the case for him, not against him.
I think we've been talking about this in the last segment. The Democrat Party is an outworn Marxist theology that has come into sudden collision with truth and common sense, and it's not holding up well at all.
Yeah, with reality, with science. Trump derangement syndrome was a funny little thing we used to say, right? But it's absolutely true, and it's evident in all levels of government. I mean, we're certainly seeing it like on a crazy scale out in California, people trying to blame Donald Trump for the fires, or he doesn't have anything to do with California, but they're coming out publicly and saying, and it's radical Democrats, of course. We've got radical Democrats all over D.C.
Well, a couple of reports have come out I want to talk about. The first report is from the special prosecutor who was looking into Hunter Biden and who was basically demeaned by President Joe Biden. He was unimpressed with that being demeaned, and he had some comments. And then Jack Smith, the disgraced former special prosecutor, his report on Donald Trump has been released, and he's saying, I could have got the guy.
Oh, he would have been convicted.
Could have got the guy.
He would have been convicted for sure.
Well, let's go first to the Biden report, the Biden special prosecutor. Here we go, clip 12, I think it is.
A Fox News alert. The Department of Justice has released special counsel David Weiss's scathing report on Hunter Biden.
In it, Weiss defends his probe that found that the president's son made millions of dollars off his last name and political connection, then failed to pay his fair share of taxes.
Peter Ducey joins us live from the White House with the latest. Hey, Peter.
And a look at recent history, we remember that the heart of President Biden's pardon of his son was that he accused the special counsel David Weiss of singling Hunter Biden out. Now David Weiss is saying that the president was wrong to say that. A quote from last night's report, other presidents have pardoned family members, but in doing so, none have taken the occasion as an opportunity to malign the public servants at the Department of Justice based solely on false accusations. The biggest problem the special counsel Weiss has with Hunter is that he didn't pay $1.4 million in taxes over a 5-year stretch. Weiss says those are not inconsequential tax violations and that Mr. Biden made his money by using his last name and connections to secure lucrative business opportunities such as a board seat at a Ukrainian industrial conglomerate, Burisma Holdings Limited, and a joint venture with individuals associated with a Chinese energy conglomerate.
Okay, so just to back to this. In late 2013, when I was writing at Breitbart, I wrote a story about Air Force Two.
Okay.
Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden took Air Force Two to Beijing, China. And when Joe got off the plane, standing right next to him was Hunter Biden, and they met all of the top Chinese Communist Party officials. Now, clearly this was a violation of law
Of course.
back then.
Yep.
And then all of those Chinese officials that were there with Hunter Biden, you know, the princeling, right, cut deals and he made money off of it.
That's right.
That was bad back in 2013. Now, ironically, I think this is kind of little trivia here. I don't know exactly why they did this, but that trip was in late 2013. The pardon of Hunter Biden extends to all the crooked stuff he did between January 1st, 2014.
I
don't know why they didn't go back to January 1st, 2013.
Yeah.
There might be
a statute of limitations thing there,
might
maybe
be.
something. I don't
Might
know.
be.
I'm sure there's a legal reason. Listen, they've got
Yeah.
all the most conniving and devious legal
Conniving
minds on
and
their
devious.
side.
Yeah.
So, you know, what's interesting about this is they're trying so hard to make this news, right? And the Jack Smith stuff news. These reports are coming out. We've known this. You wrote that in 2013.
About, the Biden
right?
thing.
We've known these
it's like
stories for
12 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not new news. What's interesting is the tax the rich crowd is all tax the rich unless it's me.
So what's
Rules
interesting?
for thee
Yeah.
and not for me.
So he's been pardoned for not paying $1.3 million in
Yep.
taxes. He still doesn't have to pay the $1.3 million in taxes. He got away with not paying $1.3 million in taxes.
Which is theft, sort of, don't you think?
Well, he got pardoned for it, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's pretty shady. The whole thing with this report coming out, it's just confirming everything we already knew. All of us who were called conspiracy theorists with the laptop and everything else.
You know what the difference between a right-wing conspiracy theory and the truth is?
Well, I think it used to be about a year, but maybe now
it's about
6 months.
Boom.
Yeah.
You knew the punchline.
Yeah, because it's so obvious at this point, right? Yeah.
Now, E.J. Host.
Yes, sir.
The other report that was finally released, it was the report of Jack Smith.
Mm-hmm.
This was about everything related to January 6th.
That's right.
Right. Now, Jack Smith has resigned in disgrace because he was not constitutionally appointed. Trump won. What Jack Smith is saying is, I could have got him. I could have been a contender.
Sure.
I could have got him convicted. He's saying, well, you know, he did all of this stuff to promote a January 6th insurrection. I could have got him convicted in the District of Columbia. Well, but what does that mean?
Well, that means that the District of Columbia voted 93% for Joe Biden, and there were some that didn't vote at all. To give me a break.
Not only that, yeah, I mean, back to that.
Come on, that's Trump derangement syndrome. If you have an entire community, I would call it a city, but there's so many suburbs and first tier, second tier suburbs that fall in line with that. You've got a whole swath of land and people who are getting paid by the government, so they want that to continue, number one. And number two, they've got TDS in the worst way. I think it's a cluster. You know how they talk about like cancer clusters?
It's like a cancer cluster.
It is. It's a cluster
Washington,
of TDS.
D.C. is a TDS cluster.
That's right.
And, but, okay, you look at the conviction rate of anybody who was charged in January 6th and people that were just, you know, there peacefully, 1,500 cases brought, 1,500 convictions in Washington, D.C.
Of course. That's absurd.
You think you're going to get a fair trial there?
No, of course not. Absurd. And I can't wait to see some of the pardons. It's going to be hard to parse at this point what is true and what was inflated, exaggerated for the sake of these convictions. It's also been so many years that, I mean, maybe we just pardon everybody. I used to be like, oh, let's look at who committed violent crimes and who was, you know, hitting a police officer and things like that. But at this point, they've been in solitary confinement. They've been denied legal counsel. They have been treated so poorly. The legal system has not treated them justly there. At this point, you've been incarcerated and your life is ruined. I think maybe that's time served.
Well, look, Jack Smith needs to be looking, you know, behind him.
Where's his report on all the people that have been unjustly treated?
No, Jack Smith himself, however, it could well be prosecuted for obstruction of justice.
Yes.
And misuse of legal authority.
Withholding evidence.
Under the
all
color
kinds
of law.
things. Yes.
Yeah, abuse of power under the color of law, I think, is the general idea of what it would be. I think Pam Bondi's going to look at that. The hunters are about to become the hunted. And I think that's a good thing, because what an abuse that was.
Yeah.
I
I also think it's important to not look backwards too very much. We've got so much to clean and to fix.
Yeah.
There's so much rot that has to be rooted out from these institutions that going backwards might not be the best
only
use of our
problem
time.
with that, I don't disagree. The only problem is, if you don't correct certain things in the past, then they're going to happen again, and that's really kind of the issue to look at. Now, back to the issue of the pardons.
Yes, sir.
There are about 1,500 J6 participants who've been convicted and sent to prison, and some have gone and been released, like our buddy Stuart Parks, who did nothing and should never have been convicted and should never have served time in a federal prison, but he did. I'm kind of with you, because if you look at the underlying elements of this, they were basically set up.
Oh, entrapped
by the FBI, by the Capitol Police, et cetera. And then, if you're entrapped, and if you say that there's use of violence, of those 1,500, I think maybe there's a couple dozen where there were claims of violence. But in one case, we've got somebody from Tennessee who was involved, I think, in trying to help the poor woman, what was her name, Rosalind Boylan, who had a health emergency and was sort of trampled to death and was beaten by police officers as she was dying.
That's right.
And somebody was trying to help her, and in that help had some physical contact with an officer. I think that guy has been, convicted of 7 years or something like that.
Right, but look at if that's the worst of the worst thing that any of these people were convicted of, or even charged with, for those that are still sitting waiting for trial and whatnot, if that's the worst, they've been now incarcerated for 4 years. Their lives are ruined. They don't have jobs.
Well, there's another.
Their families can't even visit them.
Some of them.
So that's a punishment, I think, fitting of the crime that was potentially committed.
In the worst case scenario, but there are some people now, I think several dozen, who have been in District of Columbia jails for this entire period of time, and have not yet had their day in court.
That's right.
Well, that's not American.
Right.
That's anything but American.
And in those cases, that's where, yes, looking backwards is important, because they deserve justice.
Yeah.
That's important. That helps root out the rot. And I think we also have to set a little bit of precedent here that it's not going to be tolerated going forward.
When we come back, we've got some new scoop. Breaking news. Another Democrat libtard senator,
gotta hear this clip,
is trying to attack Pete Hegseth. It's Senator Gillibrand from New York, who, by the way, is far from the brightest bulb. Far from the brightest bulb. That was such a
kind way to put that.
We'll be back with more after this.
Hey, I'm Governor Bill Lee, and I want to talk to you about an important education bill in Tennessee. Everyone knows that education has the power to change the trajectory of a child's life forever. And anyone who's raised a child knows that each one's different in their educational needs, and their learning styles, and their talents. The fact is, parents know their own children best. They know what's best for their education and their future. That's why I'm here to talk to you about Tennessee's Education Freedom Act. It empowers parents across our state to use their tax dollars to choose the school that allows their child to thrive, regardless of zip code or income, all while making significant investments in Tennessee's public education. If you want to learn how you can help make the Education Freedom Act a reality in Tennessee, go to educationfreedomact.com and write or call your state representatives. It's educationfreedomact.com.
This ad is paid for by Job Creators Network.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. EJ Haast in studio, official guest host of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show and newest All-Star panelist.
Yes,
EJ, we've been watching in real time the Democrat Senate libtards who are attempting to go after Pete Hegseth. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, again, as I said, not the brightest bulb from New York.
Oh, you got to hear it. It's so funny.
Here's this clip, this interaction between Gillibrand and Hegseth. Let's go with this clip right now.
So women you have denigrated. You have also denigrated members of the LGBTQ community. Did you know that when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in place, we lost so many crucial personnel, over 1,000 in mission critical areas. We lost 10% of all our foreign language speakers because of a political policy. You said in your statement, you don't want politics in the DOD. Everything you've said in these public statements is politics. I don't want women. I don't want moms. What's wrong with a mom, by the way? Once you have babies, you therefore are no longer able to be lethal. I mean, you're basically saying women after they have children can't ever serve in the military in a combat role. It's a silly thing to say. It's a silly thing to say beneath the position that you are aspiring to. To denigrate LGBTQ service members is a mistake. If you are a sharpshooter, you're as lethal regardless of what your gender identity is, regardless of who you love. So please know this to be a true statement.
What a Looney Tunes. I can't help it. If you were sitting there, you're Pete Hegseth, and he's doing great. He's just stoic, just looking at her, staying quiet. He knows it's almost over. Just don't say anything, and you'll be sec def soon, right? Like, that's it.
Lethal moms.
But, oh, come on.
Lethal LGBTQ sharpshooters.
Right? I mean, if you meet the qualifications, physical and mental qualifications, okay, fine, but let's not lower standards just to meet some silly quota.
We got serious with Senator Tom Cotton's question. Here we go. Tom Cotton's question and answer from Pete Hegseth.
Support Israel's war in Gaza. I support Israel's existential war in Gaza. I assume, like me and President Trump, you support that war as well, don't you?
Senator, I do. I support Israel destroying and killing every last member of Hamas.
And the third protester said something about 20 years of genocide. I assume that's our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Do you think our troops are committing genocide in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Senator, I do not. I think our troops, as you know, as so many in this committee know, did the best they could with what they had.
There you go. Now that's a good straight answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's asking real questions. How do you feel about X, Y, and Z, right?
Can you?
He's just he's doing great, and you know I'm not like some Pete Hegseth super fan, but I think that he is good for this role.
Yeah,
you know, I knew him in Minnesota, so there's a long backstory there we'll get into on another day, but I do think he's right for this role, and he's doing a great job in this.
By the
hearing.
way, can you bear listening to another Democrat Senate libtard?
Let me turn the volume down on my earpiece.
Perhaps the dumbest senator. I know that's a very low bar. There are a lot of competitors for this job on the Democrat side. Senator Mazie Hirono.
Oh, geez.
From Hawaii. Here we go.
Would you use our military to take over Greenland or an ally of Denmark?
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at is never strategically tipping his hand. And so I would never in this public forum give one way or another direct what orders the president would give me in any context.
That sounds to me that you would contemplate carrying out such an order to basically invade Greenland and take over the Panama Canal.
I mean,
Come on. Like, what? What? These, you know what it is? The Democrats are looking for sound bites. And to a degree, so do the Republicans. They look for their counter sound bites, right? But this is just like, well, that tells me that you would do it. He literally said, I'm not going to tell you. And she was like, you just told me. Like, it doesn't, and none of it matters. In the end, none of this matters. I think he's going to get confirmed. But we all have our opinions anyway. Like, it is what it is. You know, the screeching woman Gillibrand there, not making the case that women are mentally stable enough to be in our military. Like, please don't speak for us, Senator. Like, we can do. There's plenty of
okay,
much more qualified
we got
people.
2 minutes here. Can you do? Now, Elizabeth Warren's on this committee.
Yeah.
Senator from Massachusetts, your home state.
She's another one who's just.
Have you ever done an Elizabeth Warren impersonation?
No, and I don't dare to. I don't. I'm not a great impressionist.
What will Elizabeth Warren ask? Will she say, you know, Pete, you didn't promote enough Native Americans?
Oh gosh.
What's he gonna?
To which he'll respond, "I'm sorry, Senator Pocahontas."
Yeah.
No, I she's something else. She's just gonna come. You know, she's more Bernie Sanders-ish. Like, I put them in the same kind of category.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them are just looking for the soundbite. So expect to get an email later asking for donations. This is the crucial, critical question I asked at the hearing today.
Is anybody going to pay any attention to this 2018 Democrat smear strategy?
Oh, he laid that out beautifully. That was the clip I heard much earlier today. Maybe I'll find it and post it on X so people can find it. Look for EJ Under the Radar, and I'll find that clip and post it.
Tell us about your business.
Oh, real quick, go to getfoundeverywhere.com if you don't mind. We help businesses get found on the map, literally, so that you can get more customers in your door.
Getfoundeverywhere.com.
Yes, sir.
EJ
Thank you for
Haas
that.
Business. EJ, you'll be here Friday at 9
I will.
if all goes well.
Yeah, assuming we can drive on the roads in Tennessee.
I think we can. We'll be back with more for the Tennessee Bonus Hour with Clint Brewer after this, and maybe we'll hear from Stephen K. Bennett.
Nice.
Back after this.